With the HAIKYUU movie coming out on February 16th of this year, meaning it's been over 3 years since we last got HAIKYUU content, I wanted to talk about HAIKYUU. Specifically, I wanted to rank the starting 7 players on the Karasuno team. I didn't want to rank every player on the team because I feel like that would honestly take a pretty long time. But if I had to go with all the players that we've seen play in an official match, I'd probably go Kinoshita last, Yamaguchi next, Enoshita, Narita, and then Suga next. Yeah, that'd probably go the list I'd go with. I'm now getting right into it. At number 7, we have Hinata. Now, Hinata, you already know all of his strengths. He's a freak athlete. He has basically bottomless stamina. The only time we've ever seen him get tired in a match was against Shiratorizawa, which was late into the 5th set, and that was his first time ever playing a 5-set match. Also, he has some of the best spiking vision in the entire series. It was actually to the point when he told his coach Ukai how much he could see when he was spiking, he actually didn't even believe that that was even possible for a human. He may be a very short player, but his main strength is actually his jump. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever done the math on how high this kid can jump, but he has a standing reach of 210 centimeters, and he has a running jump reach of 333 centimeters. That makes his vertical jump 123 centimeters. That means Hinata Shoyo has a 48-inch vertical. That is insane to have a 48-inch vertical as an adult, but to have that as a 15-year-old who has not even learned proper jumping technique apparently is actually insane. He has the 3rd highest jumping reach on his team, which is tied with Asahi, who is the 2nd tallest player on his team. The entire Karasuno roster actually has an insane vertical jump. The lowest jumper on this roster is actually Tsukishima, who has a 30-inch vertical, which isn't superhuman, but still insanely impressive, especially to be the lowest jumper on the entire team. Now, he does, of course, have some weaknesses. Actually, his main weaknesses have been highlighted throughout the entire show. Most of it comes down from his lack of experience, as he is a relatively new volleyball player, especially in relativity to the 3rd years and Kageyama. One of his major weaknesses throughout the show that he has majorly improved on, we spent an entire arc on it, was his receiving. He managed to perfectly receive Ojiro Eran, who is a top 5 spiker in the nation, while only getting solo blocked, with the caveat that the set was a little bit low, but he was able to read that the set was low. But I honestly do think that his receiving might be slightly overrated. He did get a perfect receive, and he has improved immensely, but he wasn't able to do another perfect receive from a spike the entire rest of that match. Earlier in the same match, the ball hit his foot multiple times, and even later in that same match, it still hit against his body instead of against his arms when he was blocking Rintaro, who Tsukishima purposely made hit in a specific spot. That ball could only go in one spot, and it still hit his body. Now, another major weakness Hinata has is his serving. He is by far and away the worst server out of the starting 7. Now, technically, we don't know how good Nishinoya is at serving, but Hinata, out of everyone who does serve, is the worst server. He does a basic overhand serve, and he is also the most prone to errors, even with that basic serve. His blocking is also subpar, especially for a middle blocker. He has managed to get some kill blocks, but those were mostly when he was instructed by other people, like when Suga instructed him versus Abujosai to jump a little later, or when Ukai told him to just commit block against Samu, who even later in that match believed that he could beat him in a one-on-one. Now, his rate of improvement is very high, but as of right now, in terms of the anime only, I would put him at number 7. Now, number 6 is his fellow middle blocker, Tsukishima. And Tsukishima has a long list of pros. He is the tallest player on the team at 191 centimeters. He is 6'3" for all of us Americans, and he has the 2nd highest running jump reach at 334 centimeters. And this was before Kageyama was forcing him to regularly jump his highest during matches. Now, he is by far and away the best blocker on the team, being very good at reading at where the spiker is going to hit, and has trained with Kuro, arguably the best blocker in the whole series we've seen so far, and Bokuto, a top 5 spiker in the nation, and Akashi. This is backed by his incredible patience. Even Kuro, who again might be the best blocker in the entire series, admitted that he wouldn't have had the patience to not go for the kill block like Suki did against Rintaro. Of course, his greatest blocking achievement was when he stuffed blocked Ushijima, arguably the best player, at the very least, the strongest spiker that we've seen in the entire series. And that was after he forced the setter to panic, not only showing his blocking skills, but also his intelligence. Now, his serving isn't great by any means. He does also, like Hinata, do a basic overhand serve. But unlike Hinata, he does have some control over it, and we haven't really seen any service errors to him, or any service errors from him, at least not in my memory. Suki has also shown the ability to pull off an emergency set, which, to be fair to Hinata, he did do, but there is a difference in context, being that Suki himself didn't seem surprised that he was able to pull off that set, Kageyama being a little frustrated that he actually pulled off a set that well. When Hinata did the emergency underhand set, Kageyama knew it was pure luck, and Hinata himself was actually very surprised that he managed to do it. Now, he does have some weaknesses. The biggest weakness, and probably the biggest reason that people would argue putting Hinata over someone like Tsukishima, are his poor receiving abilities. Yes, his receiving is pretty bad. He is probably, honestly, the worst out of the starting 7. But I don't count that as much of a weakness as maybe other players do, because Suki is a middle blocker. He is only on the receiving rotation for one rotation before he is swapped out with the libero. And according to Sarah Pavin, any receive done by a middle blocker is kind of just treated as extra. By the way, I don't actually have any volleyball experience. All of my volleyball knowledge comes from HAIKYUU, Elevate Yourself, and Sarah Pavin. And she said that, any receive done by the middle is extra, so I'm just going to believe it. People would also argue that Hinata is a better spiker, which in terms of spiking ability is honestly true. But that doesn't make him that much better of a scorer, because Suki can't read the block and maybe hit or tool the block as well as Hinata can, but he can just go over the block. So in terms of scoring ability, isn't that much lower than Hinata. At least the gap between their scoring abilities isn't as big as the gap between their blocking abilities. Now, honestly, to me, the most comfortable spot of the bottom half was number 5, Tanaka. Now, Tanaka does have some pretty good things about him. His greatest strength, which isn't even his physical ability, is actually his mental fortitude and his ability to lift the team up with his energy. His energy is very infectious, and has been shown that over and over again. Kageyama even choosing Tanaka to be their first scorer in a tournament because he wanted to get the team going. Ukai stated that in terms of raw physical strength, he was second on the team to only Asahi, who is a year older than him. He's the second highest vertical jump after Hinata at 100 centimeters, which is, again, a 39-inch vertical. Again, insane verticals from this whole team. He has a very good line shot, a very good cross shot that he learned. He was able to pull off this cross shot for the first time in an official match at his lowest state of the entire series against the number 2 ranked team in the nation to show off his mental fortitude. He does have a jump spike serve, but it honestly isn't very good. It isn't at the point where it's doing much of anything. It's not causing any receive errors, and he's not getting any aces off of it. In fact, at this point in the series, it's actually more bust than it is boom. But he still is one of the only 3 players out of the starting 7 who can even do a jump serve. He also isn't confident in his receives, which is shown when he argues with Enoshita that he was better at getting hard spikes than Enoshita. Now, I actually think there's the least amount to say about Tanaka. I mean, to me, he's kind of a gatekeeper in a sense, where he himself is a good player, but I don't think he's in the top tier of players. And I think if you're better than Tanaka, you're at the very least close to the top tier of players. I mean, in one of the best moments of all of HAIKYUU, admittedly, he self-admitted that he was just an average player in his own eyes. And I kind of have to agree. I'd love to see the player he becomes when he becomes a 3rd year and gets stronger. But as of right now, I'm comfortably putting him at number 5. Now, this next spot, I actually had the most back and forth between the number 4 and the number 3 spot. Now, let me preface this by saying that we're at the point where I honestly think these guys are top tier players. They are very good at least one aspect of the game. But that all being said, I'm putting Asahi at my number 4 spot. Now, I know he is the ace of the team, so that would cause you to think that he would at least be in the upper half of players, but we've seen another team where that isn't true, and very fittingly, it was actually Nakoma, and I'm talking about Yamamoto, not Lev. Now, he does have some very good pros. First, he is most obviously the ace of the team, and he got that title by being such a great scorer and being the strongest physical player of the team. We've seen him blow through blockers as early as episode 9 against Suki and Kageyama, and Daichi even noted that after he found his confidence, you really need an iron wall in order to stop him. He also learned to time his spikes from the moment that the blockers were starting to fall and wipe it off of the top of their hands. He did this again in the inarizaki match, showing his incredible growth throughout the series in his mental fortitude. He is also the second strongest server on the starting roster, being able to get multiple service aces and a service ace against Inarizaki, again, the number 2 nation in high school. He is still prone to making some service errors, but he does go for it on every serve, which again shows his mental fortitude and how he's improved. Because even with the match on the line, he will still go for a hard serve like he did against Shiratorizawa. His receiving is average, I guess. From what we've seen, he isn't great at receiving, but he isn't bad either. He didn't dispute the claim that he was better at getting hard spikes from Enoshita, and he does seem like the type of guy to admit when he is worse at his teammate than something, or he's not confident in something. So there's no reason for us to disagree with Enoshita's claim here. His blocking is also average as well. We haven't seen any mistakes from him in terms of blocking, but I don't think we've ever actually seen him get a kill block in the entire series. We've seen him get one soft block on Datako, I think. That might be the only one, and that isn't great from your second tallest player. He isn't bad at any aspect of the game, in my opinion, other than being a leader, but he's even shown moments of inspiring confidence within his team, such as when he inspired Nishinoya. But he is very, very good at scoring the ball, which is why he is the ace. But in terms of as a player, he's more power than finesse, who I cannot say for our number 3 spot, the man who barely edged him out, fellow third year and captain, Daichi. Now, in terms of playstyle, he definitely goes under the radar, and he admittedly doesn't do anything that all exciting, but that doesn't change the fact that his skills are invaluable to the team. Every team he plays against, they have acknowledged that he is very vital to the team. Shiratorizawa's admitted that without him, their defense would be full of holes. In Shiratorizawa's match, he showed the ability to constantly receive a jump float serve, and although he was only able to do it once perfectly, he was the only player other than Nishinoya who was able to consistently receive Ushijima's spike serves. And that was after Ushijima himself had stated he was starting to get into it after getting like 5 points on his serves alone. And one of Shiratorizawa coaches had stated that Ushijima's serves were on point that day, and he was still able to consistently get them up. He self-admittedly isn't great at back row attacks, but he doesn't do them very often, and he still has the confidence to pull them off in a game. He overall seems decent at spiking, and I don't think we've ever seen a service arrow from him, but nothing great from the service line either. To me, he falls into the same category of Asahi. He is great at one aspect of the game. And you may be arguing, well, why is he above Asahi? But in terms of the one aspect he is really great at, the reason I have him above Asahi is receiving is a harder skill than spiking, and it is arguably the most important skill in volleyball. Now, he is the second best receiver on the team, but the person I have above him is the number 1 receiver on his team, Nishinoya. Daichi is great at receiving, but Nishinoya is simply amazing. He has shown time and time again that statement, or that fact. He can not only make the standard, boring, basic passes, but he has also been able to do miracle saves, like his foot save and his double save versus Shiratorizawa. He's also an incredible block coverer. That was what he mainly practiced when he was on suspension at the beginning of the show. He has done it many times in games and is the reason that his team can spike so freely, because they believe in his ability to recover. He's honestly probably become the second best setter out of the starters. Given that he's the libero, I actually think this segment will probably be the shortest, as there isn't much to say about his game, but he is one of the best liberos that we've seen in the entire series. Winning best libero all the way back in middle school, and his teammates even questioning why he wasn't selected for the All Japan youth team like Kageyama was. And they actually came to the conclusion that this wasn't even because of his volleyball skill, but honestly probably more because of his immaturity. And I'd have to agree, in terms of talent, he's the only other player other than Kageyama that you could argue for being on the All Japan youth team. Speaking of Kageyama, what is there to say about Kageyama that hasn't already been said? He is a genius setter, and there is a reason he was selected to attend the All Japan youth camp as a first year. His setting in terms of precision is only rivaled by Miya Atsumu, who was named the number 1 high school setter Yeah, that is the company he is with in terms of setting ability. He is the best server on the entire team, and he has a stone cold killer mentality to just go for it all out at match point, surprising even Mia Osumu, who has gone to the national finals against some of the best setters in the nation, and causing him to get a service error. He has even shown that he isn't just average, but even actually pretty good at other aspects of the game, such as being the only person on this list to solo stuff block a top 5 ace in the nation in Ojiro Eran. And he had Rintaro kind of compliment his blocking by saying he was scarier than Tsukishima. Kind of a caveat, I know, but he still is a great blocker. He's also good at receiving, even though he is a setter, which Elevate Yourself says is pretty not normal for a setter. Again, not a volleyball player. He's shown confidence in receiving against Ushijima's cross shot, Ushijima's best shot. But to be fair, we don't know if he switched places with Hinata because he was confident he could receive the ball or because he knew that he had a better shot of receiving the ball than Hinata. But either way, he successfully did it. He is also very good at spiking the ball. We've seen this very early in the series when he taught Hinata what a line shot was, and he had the confidence to go for a cross shot while on the right side as a right-handed player against Tendo, one of the best middle blockers in the entire series. It did get blocked, but let's be real, we know he can do a cross shot. If he can do it on the right side, he can probably do an even better one on the left side. All of this is not even mentioning that he has the highest running vertical jump on the whole team at 337 centimeters. His only weaknesses that you could say is that he's not good at talking to teammates. He can come off a little cold or antisocial. He can be bad with timings, and he can sometimes bring down the mood like he did with Nishinoya when Asahi was the one encouraging him. But his only real on-the-court weaknesses are that he might have a stamina issue against Shiro Torizawa. He ran out of steam a little earlier than his middle blockers, which again, from Elevate Yourself, is kind of weird for a setter to run out of stamina before any of the middle blockers because they have the most physically demanding role. That and that he can sometimes be a little readable. Kagema is one of the hardest setters to read, being complimented on his impossible to read form multiple times. But against Inarizaki, he did show a tendency to get caught up in the momentum of the game, as all of Inarizaki was able to tell that he was going to set Asahi in the back row and that he was going to set Hinata on the free quick. But I honestly consider these more isolated incidents, as again, he is not a very readable setter, but he does have moments where he does get caught. If his only weaknesses are these isolated moments, then again, I think he's a very good player. He is one of the best players in the entire series, and he is easily the #1 best player on the team. That was my ranking of the entire Karasuno roster. I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments, whether you agree or disagree with some of my placings, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.